So if you're in the market for a new mid-range iPad, both the Air and the Mini might come to mind, so let's delve into how these compare in 2023. Beginning with the design, these are literally the same iPads in two different sizes, and so while the designs are boring and nothing special, they do focus on practicality over everything. For example, the flat edges are easy to grip onto and of course help accommodate the pencil, and while it would be nice if we got thinner bezels on these iPads, the bezels do ultimately serve a purpose. You have to place your finger somewhere when using the iPad. Now the Mini does have a few design differences. The first thing being the volume buttons. Because the Mini is so tiny, Apple could not give us volume buttons and the pencil on the landscape side, and so they shifted the volume buttons, and I have got used to this to be fair, but I still would prefer having the volume buttons on the landscape side instead. The other thing that's different is the flash on the back, which yes, this iPad mini has, but both the iPad 10 and the iPad Air doesn't. It's a very confusing thing, but anyways, there's that. And by the way, would like to remind you guys, like this video and subscribe for more content like this, it would be appreciated. Specifically coming to the sizes, this obviously is the biggest physical change between these iPads, and for those wondering which is better for your use case, I would ultimately try these out in person first, but if you can't, then here are my thoughts. The Mini is your quintessential iPad. It's the iPad in its truest form, and if you're genuinely only using this for basic tablet usage like watching content, reading books, playing games, etc., this smaller form factor is quite nice, and for use around the home it's perfect. The Air on the other hand is very similar to other iPads in that it could be a computer replacement. I'm sure there are students watching this and wondering which one to get, and you should just get the Air because the larger screen for note-taking makes a massive difference, but also for those looking to get into video and photo editing, this does have a bigger display and also the M series chip and also keyboard support that the Mini lacks. That makes it ideal as a laptop replacement. And so yeah, those are my thoughts on which one to get based on the sizes. Anyways, let's continue with the comparison and talk about the displays on these, because once again, they're near identical for the most part, apart from one being 10.9 inches and the other being 8.3 inches. They're both LCD 60Hz, have True Tone, 500 nits of brightness, they're also fully laminated, have P3 support, and also the anti-reflective coating. And so all of these specs result in pretty average but solid panels. They're definitely nothing special since they lack 120Hz, and the mini LED tech the iPad Pros have, but these displays are more than fine for regular usage, and the brightness is fine for indoor use. I do also want to mention that I personally have not picked up on jelly scrolling on the Mini, which yes, I know was a massive controversy when it launched, but guys, it's a total non-issue. Both these panels are really good. Now moving to the SoC, this is likely the biggest difference between these iPads because unlike in previous years where the Air and the Mini had the same SoC inside, this generation of Air has the M1 and the Mini has the A15, and so as a result, on paper at least, the M1 does pack more horsepower and also gets double the RAM, which can be useful, but here's the thing guys, whether you need this power all depends on what you plan to do with these iPads. Because if you're solely using this for light tablet usage, or even doing things like gaming where you're pushing the SoC, both iPads do this very well without any issues. The A15 is still a very powerful chip, and so don't be swayed by the M1 and the specs on paper because A15 is still pretty good. Really, like I said, if you plan to use this as a computer replacement and do things like photo or video editing, then yes, you should consider M1 because while the Mini does actually have the horsepower for this and can also edit pretty well for the most part, the extra performance is quite handy because remember Final Cut for example only works on the M series iPads. Also just remembered, if you're into artwork, obviously the bigger display on the Air is going to make a difference, but also for apps like Procreate, I'm pretty sure the M series iPads support more layers because of the additional RAM they have. So basically, if you plan to do creative work that could benefit from the additional horsepower the M1 has, go with the Air, and do remember this also offers additional iPadOS features that only work with the M series iPads, like Stage Manager and proper external display support. However, don't let that sway you from the iPad mini because, as I said earlier guys, if you're going to be using this iPad as an iPad, the A15 is plenty powerful, and for the average iPad user this has no issues running YouTube, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Twitter, Reddit, etc. This all works with absolutely no issues. and I'm sure that will remain the case for the next few years. In fact, this really applies to both iPads. The great thing about Apple putting these insanely powerful SoCs in these products means you should get years and years of support, and they should stay fast for the foreseeable future. Yes, I could see the Air getting 1 or 2 years of additional support over the Mini because of the additional RAM and the extra horsepower it has, but even then guys, the Mini should still get 5 more years of support, and by then you're probably going to buy a new iPad anyways. So yeah, support on both these iPads is absolutely fine. Now moving to battery life, Apple quotes all iPads get 10 hours of endurance, but surprisingly I do see a difference in battery life between these iPads, and you would expect the Mini to be worse, but surprisingly it's been better in my use. And actually all iPad Airs have not had the best battery life because the 4th gen my mum has also was quite a bit worse compared to other iPads, but that continues to be the case with the M1 version, and I've also seen videos on YouTube suggesting that yes, the Air does have 1 hour less of endurance compared to the iPad mini. Why is this the case? If I were to guess, it's maybe because the M1's a more power hungry SoC, but either way guys, both these iPads are fine for regular usage. You'll get through a day with absolutely no issues. But yeah, the Mini is slightly better in this aspect. Coming to accessories, both support the 2nd gen pencil, which is awesome because it's a fantastic stylus for students, but do remember because of its smaller size, the Mini does not have a plethora of keyboard options like the iPad Air has. Now personally, I don't see this as a major con because, frankly speaking, who's actually going to use a keyboard on an 8-inch tablet? It would be way too cramped, and like I said, the iPad mini is not supposed to be a computer replacement, and so if you plan to get a keyboard for your iPad, get the Air instead. Quickly touching on the cameras, everything once again is near identical between these iPads. It's the same sensor on the back, so they're both great for scanning documents, and the front-facing camera has center stage, so it follows you around the room, and this always blows my mind. It works amazingly well, and really the only advantage the Mini has is the aforementioned flash, which I do surprisingly use in the dark to find the charger for this. But yes, apart from that, both these iPads have solid cameras. Now both also have Touch ID instead of Face ID, but to be honest, I prefer Touch ID on the iPad because I often block the Face ID modules on the Pro iPads, and so pressing the home button is way more convenient, and both also have the same stereo speaker arrangement. Obviously the Air with the bigger chassis does sound better, but to be honest, the Mini for its small size does produce respectable sounds, and here's a quick speaker mic test for you guys. Right, so for those wondering what to expect from iOS 17, we have a bunch of new information, so let's delve into it. So most of these findings are from the Leaker 941 analyst, who was the first to tell us about the dynamic island on the 14 Pro, so they are somewhat credible. However, because honestly, I rarely have to close apps on my phone, and if I ever need to close apps, it's usually one application that's acting up and needs to be force closed, so I really don't understand why we need a close all apps button. And here's a quick video mic test for you guys on the iPad mini 6. Now both have the same Bluetooth and Wi-Fi standards, so I've had no issues in this aspect, and both also support blazing fast 5G, so if you do actually need this, yes, you can get that option, but personally guys, I don't think 5G is that useful for the iPads. Get yourself the Wi-Fi version and just hotspot from your iPhone. The USB-C port is slightly faster on the iPad Air for transferring content, but whether you need this once again depends on what you plan to do with these iPads, because I personally only use the port to charge the device, so the slower speeds on the Mini is absolutely fine. And I think that's everything regarding these iPads. The Air is $100 more expensive at $599 compared to the Mini, but of course, because these iPads have been out for a while, you can find them for much less via third parties. And ultimately, I would not go for the Mini if your sole intention is to save cash. Like I said, if you're looking for something more portable and want an iPad that's just an iPad, this form factor is perfect. It's the one I would personally get, and this is a nice device that accompanies my MacBook. However, for students and those planning to do serious work, the Air's bigger screen and also the additional performance is going to be very handy, and so I would go with that, and also get a keyboard. I do want to mention though guys, if you solely want the bigger display for watching YouTube and Netflix with, I would get the iPad Air 4 instead, because that can be found for way less and offers enough performance for basic usage. And actually, I'll leave the iPad Air 4 review I recently did in the icon above. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching.